and you find people who've been here 25 years and have 2 generations of family and have been paying taxes and are in a local church, as somebody who believes strongly in family, you're going to have a hard time explaining why that particular subset is being broken up and forced to leave, given the fact that they've been law-abiding citizens for 25 years.
Oh, wait a second. That was Newt Gingrich, but Barack Obama, May 10th, 2011, said this, El Paso, Texas. Our laws should respect families, following the rules, reuniting them more quickly instead of splitting them apart. Doesn't a lot of sound the same themes here? Obama and Gingrich. But are they the same? Are they really getting at the same final result here? The ultimate goal of immigration policy is to do what? Gingrich would say, I think, and has said in his statements that he's released, his printed statements answering all the claims of amnesty, I've never been for this amnesty. Obama's for the amnesty. They might have parallel lines on family and the importance of family, Hispanic families, American families, how they can come together. Yes. But no. I'm not for that amnesty. That's what Obama's for. Meanwhile, all these other Republicans find this is an opening against Gingrich, who just gets the Manchester Union leader endorsement. Big endorsement up in New Hampshire, even though he's way behind Romney in these polls. Michele Bachmann, I think others in the field will say, wait a second, Newt, where does this take us? Joining us now is Congresswoman Michele Bachmann, of course, Minnesota Republican, candidate for president, and she's with us now, and delighted she is with us. Congresswoman, great to talk to you. How are you?
Well, I'm doing great. It's wonderful to talk to another woman with a core of conviction like Laura Ingraham.
Oh, well, thank you. Now, let's get into this Newt comment at the debate and your take on this. What's your beef with what he said, and what do you think he really means in bringing this up as he did and how he phrased it?
I think the best way to look at it is what has his historical position been on this issue, and it has been that he believes, like George Bush did, in comprehensive immigration reform, which is really another word for amnesty. It's for legalizing 11 million illegal workers in the United States. Speaker Gingrich has his name on a letter in the Wall Street Journal in 2004, and that remains his position. That isn't me saying it. There's a national organization on immigration. They've given me their highest score. They've given Newt Gingrich their lowest score of a D- because he has stood for the Federalizing the Dream Act, and he stood for making legal 11 million workers in the United States.
I think what Gingrich has said, and he released this statement, Gingrich strongly opposed Bush-era amnesty legislation. And he said it's a sellout of every conservative principle. He said this May 17th in 07. He said the comprehensive reform proposal is the most self-destructive bill for Republicans to be sponsoring that I've seen, maybe in my lifetime. So it doesn't sound like a man who supports amnesty there, Congresswoman.
Well, it sounds like a man who's been all over the map, because he has his name signed on a letter in the Wall Street Journal where he says just exactly the opposite. But that's not unusual. He was on both sides of the TARP issue. In a 24-hour period, he was against the
all right, well, before we get to TARP, though, let's...
Yeah.
Well, believe me, there are a lot of Republicans out there that were... I think we're just you're right, all over the map on TARP. But let's stick on this immigration issue, because I'm thinking about the American ideal over Thanksgiving and the obsession with shopping and people lining up, being away from their families, thinking that's fine. And in this idea that we have millions of people here who are here illegally, who don't, for them, Thanksgiving doesn't really mean anything, because first of all, public schools don't really teach the religious underpinnings of Thanksgiving so much, and families are disintegrated, and everything is really disconnected already for all of us. Yet, if you're a new immigrant, then you see the sales circulars, and that's all it's all about shopping, and we lose that touchstone that is so important for all of us. I'm thinking about this in those terms.
Yeah.
But when we think about the Republican Party, we also have to think, okay, the reality is that we have millions and millions of people here who are here illegally. Let's say we, have the fence up, or the, borders enforced, shut down. Now we're enforcing all the laws. then what do you do with all the people who are here illegally? And how do you do that in a way that doesn't turn off all these Hispanic voters that, frankly, Obama needs? He needs this. Dan Balls in the Washington Post wrote a great piece. This is a long question, but look, he needs these voters. So maybe what Newt Gingrich is getting at is kind of it's a message to the Hispanic people out there who are legally here in the United States. This is not an anti-Latino message, Latina message. This is a pro-American message. We are about families. This is what you said back in September at a different debate when this question was posed to you. But if we enforce the borders, then what?
It is sequential, and it depends upon where they live, how long they have been here, if they have a criminal record. All of those things have to be taken into place.
Well, right. Isn't that what Gingrich has said? I mean, aren't you saying the same thing that Gingrich is saying? You got to take into account their circumstances, whether they've been legally operating in the United States, whether they've lived a good life, whether they're criminals.
No, it's completely different. What Newt Gingrich was talking about was making legal 11 million workers. That is, I have never called for making legal 11 million illegal aliens. What I'm talking about is the order of deportation, the sequence of deportation. It's almost impossible to remove 11 million legals overnight. You do it in steps, and you begin first with those who are felons, those are criminals. I'm answering the question of the order of deportation. Newt isn't talking deportation. He's talking that you make 11 million illegals legal. President Reagan did that in the 1980s, and all that did is attract more illegal aliens. It is the greatest magnet you can have. And again, this is verifiable. Newt's name is on a letter. He said it less than a year ago when he was speaking to the Latina group called Americano. It's very clear what his position has been. It's to make legal illegal aliens, 11 million of them, and that is not where the American people are at right now. It's, again, it's a core of conviction. That's my new book that just came out, Core of Conviction. And in that book, a core value is that we abide by the law. When you have people that come into the United States illegally breaking the law, we don't reward people for that. That's why we uphold the laws of the land. We aren't upholding the laws if we bend them and break them and make people legal who broke them in the first place.
Right. Well, no one fought harder against the Bush amnesty than I did, and I made a lot of enemies.
Well, you really did, and I was there in Washington. I was fighting it, too. Nothing melted the phone lines. The only comparable would be the fight on Obamacare. Then our phone lines absolutely melted, but the same thing happened with comprehensive immigration reform, which is another word for amnesty, and that's the real problem I think that Newt has right now. But again, I want to talk just for a second about my book, Core of Conviction. It really is a great American story to talk about how someone who goes from a middle-class family can go to poverty and how a person can come out. That was my experience. Our family lost everything, and I had to work my way up out of poverty. I had to start working when I was 12 years old because my family couldn't even afford to buy my clothes or my glasses. And through this story, you'll see that I spent time in Israel working on a kibbutz. I worked up in Alaska on the Aleutian chain. I worked my way through law school, became a tax lawyer. I built a successful company, and I became an accidental politician after my husband and I raised 29 kids. So it's a lot of things that people wouldn't know about me because of the mainstream media that puts a filter and creates a caricature. But this is an unfiltered view of who I am, my life story, and what values animate me. They're really the same values that you talked about, Laura, regarding Thanksgiving, the origin of Thanksgiving. Those are the values that my parents taught me. Those are the values we have to return again to find greatness in the country.
Oh, and I was remiss in not mentioning your book in the introduction, so please apologize. Please accept my apology on that. But we have it in front. I have it in front of me, and I'm reading your little part about your your daycare center in downtown Minneapolis, and there are wonderful stories in this book about your life and what you saw. And I think it's good that you wrote this. I wish it was out. I wish it had been out early this past year instead of now in the kind of rush of the Christmas season, but I'm glad you wrote it. And I think, a lot of people who think they know Michele Bachmann should pick up this book because you'll learn a little bit more about her than you can get in a 30-second soundbite or a 30-second answer period in a debate. So we appreciate that. Just to be clear on this immigration issue, because we have to clarify this. what Michele Bachmann is saying about Newt Gingrich, to some extent, is right here, right? Because this letter in the Wall Street Journal, signed by other people who are for amnesty, like, we have Linda Chavez, Cesar Conda, and others, Malcolm Wallop, Tamar Jacoby. This is what they wrote in this letter. This does seem to contradict Newt's statement that he just released, saying that he's not for amnesty. President Bush has proposed a new legal path to work in the United States through a temporary worker program that will match willing workers with willing employers. We applaud the president, and we believe his approach holds great promise to reduce illegal immigration and establish a humane, orderly, and economically sensible approach to migration. But he went on to say, we strongly believe in assimilation. We're against illegal immigration. He was talking, obviously, in that paragraph about temporary workers. But, I think, look, Congresswoman, in the end here, this is a question about what's the best for our country, right? Like, right. How will our country prosper and survive, and not just survive, but I think eclipse other countries that are biting at our heels now. And you, I can't think that the millions of people who are here illegally are all going to be deported, right? You believe that some of them are going, should be fast-tracked to deportation. I certainly agree with you. Hardcore criminals, violent criminals, repeat offenders, drunk drivers, those types. But for those people that Gingrich did speak about, what should happen to them? Should they just be deported later?
But remember what he's speaking about. He's not talking about people who've been here 25 years. If you read the letter that he signed,
he is.
If you look at the speech that he gave less than a year ago, he's talking about making legal the 11 million workers. Those aren't people who've been here 25 years. Those are people who are here in the country now. And he wants to set up citizen panels outside of the judicial system, and they would
well, that's ridiculous
about who leaves and who goes.
Yeah,
you
no,
can't
that's
do that.
Preposterous.
We're talking about enforcing the laws on the books. That's part of my book, Core of Conviction. We all need to have equal protection under the law. It can't be that some of us are, quote, more equal than others. We don't reward people who break our laws. That's the point. I truly believe that this issue costs our country $113 billion a year. That's $1,000 for every household. This is a big issue, and I have the best grade on dealing with illegal immigration of all of the candidates in the race.
What's your Latino support across the United States?
Issue.
What's your support that you're garnering among Latino voters across the United States?
Well, I had great support. I was down in Miami speaking at the Versailles Cafe.
Well, what's the numbers? What are the numbers? Get me the numbers.
Well, I haven't seen a poll on that issue, but the thing is, what Latina voters want is exactly what you and I want. They want a chance at the American dream. We can give them that by upholding these core values that I write about in my book, Core of Conviction. That's what they want, just a chance. But when we offer them what the conservative wing of our party offers, they will grow and prosper just the same. But when we give the welfare state, then people won't be able to come out of it. It's the biggest trap people can have.
So do you predict you'll get more Latino, let's say you're the nominee, will you get more Latino voters than Barack Obama to support you because you have this message?
I think, take a look at the last election with John McCain. And take a look, no one could have been stronger for amnesty than John McCain. And take a look at his support among the Latina voters and the Latina voters and their support against Barack Obama. It wasn't even close. They went with Barack Obama.
Right, but we're not talking about McCain. We're talking about you. Do you think you'll be able to get more support than Barack Obama for the Latino voters?
That is my plan. That is my plan, because I have demonstrated a lifetime of standing on compassion and reaching out to people. I've raised 23 foster children in my home. I've reached out to women in unplanned pregnancies and have helped them. I have a lifetime of compassion and a lifetime of answers. That's my book, Core of Conviction. And I have solutions for people, no matter if they're Latina, no matter if they're African American, no matter where they come from.
Do you think Newt is lying on this when he says that he's not for amnesty? Let's just get brass tacks here. I mean, we're about, just common sense here. Is he lying when he puts out this statement today? You've got to tell us, yes. Is he lying? He says he's not for amnesty. He wasn't for Bush amnesty. You came on the show and he said he's for it. This is what he is. So you're calling him a liar.
What I'm saying is, if you look at the letter he signed, if you look at his statement less than a year ago, it's completely opposite with what he's saying.
Okay, so
today.
he's lying. So he's got to be lying today then.
Just what I said, Laura. If you look at his statement from
Okay, so we can't get an answer. You won't say Newt's lying. I mean, this is what drives people crazy. By the way, Michele Bachmann, I adore Michele Bachmann. And I love your message on family and faith and immigration. I think you're right on. But if Newt's saying something that's not true, he's lying. He's lying to get votes. And people want to hear that. I just think people, if he's saying that, and it's a lie.
Laura, that's what I've been saying this weekend, that his statements are completely contradictory. Take a look at them. This is an extremely important election. We will never have a more important election than this one.
We got you on that.
We can't get it wrong. Our nominee has to have a core of conviction. That's why I'm urging people to go out and buy my book, Core of Conviction. You'll see a completely...
Are you selling a book or are you running for president? Are you selling a book or are you running for president? People are emailing me. I'm just getting tons of messages on that.
Well,
What's more important?
People to know Laura, I want people to know who I am. That's why I wrote the book. Because people get a caricature of an MSNBC quality. I want people to know who the real Michele Bachmann is. And I think it's important that they get that because the media gives a very distorted view.